Hello out there. Wow. Didn't think there'd be so many people here this time, but here we are. Welcome again. This is the February 2021 edition of the Virtual Poetry Cafe, brought to you by the good folks at the Martha's Vineyard Playhouse. Hope you're all staying safe, masked, and distanced when you have to be. Once again, instead of cozying up around tables with friends and slices of pie, we are here virtually online. You are wherever you are, and I'm Arnie Reisman, your host. Another Groundhog Day has come and gone, and we're still in a pandemic. No one really knows if he saw his shadow. Maybe they couldn't hear him through the mask. At any rate, it was still a special day for the folks in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Nothing like a break in the boredom of the pandemic or anonymity. Another good break is poetry. True to our virtual format, we have three poets today who are not anonymous. They are Valerie Sonnenthal, Liz Kellner Posen, and Clark Myers. After they read, I'll conclude the program. Please tell your friends who may be missing this that this program will be recorded to join our other monthly poetry readings online at mvplayhouse.org. That's mvplayhouse.org. It can be seen all winter. Okay, first up is Valerie Sonnenthal. She's a regular columnist for the Martha's Vineyard Times, where her poetry also appears. A member of the Cleveland House Poets for 16 years, she teaches biomechanical yoga and sound healing at her Peaked Hill studio in Chilmark. Now, here's Valerie.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Thank you so much to the Playhouse for hosting us virtually, even though we miss being with all of you at the Playhouse. Those were really wonderful evenings helping us get through the winter, so we hope this helps you get through any season you need to get through. I'm reading three poems, and I guess they're all a little bit a slice of life in some ways. The first one is called Kwanzu Creek. And this was written after an incident in December. Kwanzu Creek. Sunday, brisk along the high water's edge, sun setting, and just one last shot over the creek, standing among leashes, reined in for the narrow crossing. Reaching into my bag, something slips out of my pocket, a soft splash. Glass slices water, light fades like a shadow. A moment disconnects time. I watch as my turquoise case sinks towards the murky creek bottom. Underwater scenes replay accidents, not accidentally dropped, nor intentionally disposed of, but a feeling of liberation as my phone slowly settles, resting among two pilings. Not a fisherman in sight, only out-of-state plates. I drive, checking for gear near pickups parked outside lit homes. Head to the closest fisherman's house I know. Armed with a milk crate on a rope and a leaf rake, sun sets and I end up lying down on the plank wood bridge and still cannot reach. One car left. Wendy's headlamp, and Rob now reaches the rake. In too strong a current, we give up for the night. Sunrise is a riot of pink and blue skies. Tide too high to try. Outfitted by Captain Tilton, I return and move the net down easily, reaching bottom between rocks, shells, and seaweed. Not a hint of turquoise, dragging side to side, climbing onto rocks, reaching across silt into water, familiar and new. The current pulses, severed from distraction into a quiet I barely remember. Silence, my friend. No need to know if I'm carrying. My phone has drowned, dearly departed, in a scene film-worthy, seeing it replay slowly, calmly, disappearing, severing my deepest connection, only to return home. My son insists it is time to let the apple fall and take the reins of the bison. After 5 years of never feeling smart enough to have figured out any more than I needed, I will let go. No status quo, just an android, and I will walk again across the Kwanzu Creek. This is also, so we're going backwards. We were in December, and this is from November, and it's called Puddle Jumper. The tapping sound turns to pebbles spraying glass, wind pushing furniture over the deck edge, precarious armrests angled like broken limbs, red nylon tent drowning in a growing puddle, one car scratched by flying flotsam and jetsam, bike spokes and soaked cardboard, abandoned rags, garbage bags, tools. No rules on the dumping grounds. There are no grounds on which to sacrificially dump, not on anyone. Thinly skating grounds of miscommunication. He didn't say anything you didn't already hear. When you weren't listening, and he wouldn't come downstairs, the ice cube that rendered the glass empty tipped at the fill point, toppled like a thin deck. One blow and the house of cards crumbles. We cannot see, but welcome change, take a step in another direction. The puddle jumper cometh, makes his way histrionically quiet, the irony of what drives life and misconception. One step in the wrong direction and it's about face, saving face, making faces, blank, devoid of emotion. When empathy is a band you can tune out like a channel devoid of truth, no matter how it's twisted. Knives prick the water like raindrops as the puddle jumper maneuvers safely through storms of depression, repressed appetite, and freedom. One of these days, I will look into the puddle in the driveway, see the shadow of the puddle jumper who will travel through thick clouds, landing safely in a world of patience and understanding where love rules the day. And because it's February, and it's funny, I don't even have the date of this, but I'm going to assume maybe it was around a Valentine's Day, hard to say. It's called Love Thing. My funny Valentine, tripping through one-night stands between rows at the old Academy of Music on East 14th Street, ankle sprained in snow, under the influence, one long party ago, wanting only to be seen. Love thing, the thing I didn't know anything about, loving me first. Sure thing if you do it right. Ripe if you do it right. Toys of affection, just no satisfaction. Love, pouring, colors mingle in cold pulp, binding under pressure. Behold, a rack-dried document, beholden forevermore, learning to live, a dream, emerge in a coastal spiral, sand in her eyes, shaded by gray glass, planting her feet, wash ashore, walks with dogs, moving between days and brilliant night skies. Love has come home, filled two people. Days are calmer, some days all you hear is wind. So my heart sings, dogs cuddle, quilts sag, our bodies untwine in sleep. Days apart, my sons on their own, my practice ever deeper, layer by layer, present, always, in the love thing. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of this reading, and thank you very, very much to the Playhouse for giving us this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Valerie, and happy Valentine's Day. Quite nice. Next up is Liz Kellner Posen, an island resident now down in the sunshine of Sarasota. Her latest book of poems, entitled Salami, can be found at Bunch of Grapes and on Amazon. The floor is now yours, Liz.
Thank you, Arnie, and thank you to MJ and to everyone who is listening to this. I wish we could meet in person. Hopefully that will happen next year. The first poem I'll read, I wrote last year after thinking about what this experience of the pandemic is doing to children and the interruption to their socialization and all of that. So pandemic number 4. I ask my 6-year-old granddaughter why she is thinking of getting married. You can do all sorts of things together, she replies. You can take walks together. You can have meals together. You can swing together. And you can go down the slide together laughing. Now, I go down the slide not laughing because I'm alone. She and her family are refugees, having fled the city for the country, isolated not by foreign customs or a language barrier, but by an unseen threat. There are no playmates at the rented house. School is becoming a distant memory. The toys that surround her, the comforter tucked around her at night, belong to another girl. When we play, I find that her magic powers, which could defeat all evil forces before, now fail her sometimes. She cannot always save her imaginary friends or herself. As our game ends, she tells me the bad guys have left only 2 children in the whole world and will be coming for her soon. The next poem is called Epilogue for a Classic, and the classic I'm referring to is the much beloved children's book Eloise, which I read last year with my grandchildren, and much to my surprise, I found myself very upset and sad by that book because I felt this was a case of terrible parental abandonment. So I wrote this poem. Changes were made after a plaza guest reported Eloise's mother to social services for neglect. Her mother traveled less, but was just as distant, resenting her loss of freedom. More tutors were engaged to keep Eloise from riding the elevators, running down the corridors, and strict orders were issued against putting water down the mail chute. Distraught at the mounting household tensions, Nanny returned to her family in Britain. After some time, Eloise was dispatched to a prestigious boarding school where she excelled at French, but was twice suspended for inciting her classmates to mischief and mayhem. After college, junior year in France, Eloise held a number of jobs, mostly in hotel management, but nothing lasted. Feeling an inner emptiness, she considered joining an ultra-religious sect, hoping its copious rules of behavior would help organize her. Eloise found her current therapist on the Upper West Side through friends. And the last poem is called Sleep. It's really about the lack of it, and maybe others of you can relate to this. The last good night's sleep I had was over 20 years ago when we visited friends in the mountains up north. We had a lovely day of walking in the woods, feeding fish in the pond, eating cookies on the porch, then took the bottom bedroom where the sheets were rank from the last guests. The dark so absolute with the lamps off, we could barely find each other, and the biting cold made us surrender shivering to the quilts with a kind of abandon. The unbroken sleep felt weighted, a stone dropping to the bottom of a primeval lake, an utter absence. This friendship is now gone, signs of its dissolution already there all those years ago, if one was looking, but on that night, replete with chocolate and covered by down, I slept not like the dead, but like someone fully alive. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Be well.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks very much. Our third poet for this program is Clark Myers, now at work on a chapbook to be called Soundtrack, which he's doing with poet Donald Nietzsche. Clark, take it away.
Thanks very much, Arnie, and thanks to the Playhouse, of course, for hosting this event, and thanks to the two poets who read before me. I'm honored to be on the same Zoom as you. My first poem, I'm going to read 4 poems. My first poem is called My Mother Welcomes Her Uncle Roy Back from the West 90 years ago. Found him in a gutter. He drank himself dead, the delivery man tells her. Ashes in an urn, Western Union delivery, express from Las Vegas. The day a gem, clear as morning air, the day Uncle arrived. Up on Belmont Hill, the little girl entertained, afraid to be alone in her future. Summers at the lake, in psych wards, years before the crash, the Great War history. The Great War history, the next a decade away. Juke joints flapped, spirits high as hemlines, bright jazz and champagne. So this poem is going to be included in the chapbook that I'm working on with Donald, called Soundtrack, and poems that have a nod to the music at that time in our life when the poem takes place. And this is called Junior High Girls, 1963. Hair teased up, blue flame mascara, sprayed on skirts tight above fish-netted knees, like the Shangri-Las, snapping leader of the pack. They have brothers will kick your ass as soon as look at you, stuff you into the nearest locker like so much trash for a simple sideways glance. Still, secretly, you dream of kissing any one of them in some dark corner, press your face to her blouse, and have no idea what to do next. And then I'm going to read 2 winter poems. The first is called Priester's Pond, and it was featured on WCAI on the Sunday poem, which is an audio poem, and that was nice to be included in that. So, Priester's Pond. We catch the ice at peak after a long, still freeze, lace our skates and glide from pond edge and out, careful of the crack and sigh of breaking ice. To and fro we skate on the sheen pond, taking turns holding the baby to our chests. Back and forth under the black oak boughs toward the end of a cold, bright afternoon, like we're given from time to time. You, the baby, and me, ice and trees, a lone goose, and nothing else but our fearless shouts rising above the dusk. And then this last poem was called The Leonids. The quiet felt just right on the dawn drive back down the island. A doe, quick and defiant, in our headlights startled us both, shook us back to our disappointment this morning by the winter sea, when the meteor tails were not bright fireworks, but more like the faint scrapes of a skater's blades from the other side of thick ice. And thank you very much. A pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Clark. Thanks again. I can certainly relate to the time periods you're talking about. Before we now wrap up, I give you back your own computers. I want to offer 3 poems of mine to close this program. The first 2 are more or less quibbles with our country and its sense of self, and the final one is my take on Groundhog Day. My first is called Pillows of Wisdom. While waiting for an aggrieved God to pick up America and shake it by its ankles, I fulminate. I contemplate how we got here. I won't be impolitic and ask questions. A dog abused by excuses for democracy. I lift my leg on the grave of answers. Man cannot find peace if he remains robustly committed to equivocation. There is no antibiotic, no cure for the nausea of silence. Morals can be found only at the ends of fables. Every nuance shivers in the coldness of interpretation. Every ruin was left by righteousness on its way to greatness. My country, right or wrong, could not make up its mind. The next poem is called The Show Must Go On. Step right up. Ideal, he says, in hearts, in minds. Pay no attention. It's all a gamble. An idealist is nothing more than a daydreaming croupier in the casino that's America, where everyone bets against the house, a house divided for what it's worth, where everyone shoots breezes or wages or anything else that moves, where minority rules, but not that minority. Pay no attention, the deal's been dealt, it's all for show, all nicely packaged in peanuts and promises. The show must go on. Brought to you by hypocrisy. It's not just for breakfast anymore. And my final one just appeared in the latest Vineyard Gazette. It's a revised, shortened version of one I published a few years back. But hey, there are no laws on rewriting. So here goes. The title is 6 More Weeks of Heresy. Groundhog Day, a day without reason, when the large rodent is American pagan icon, also known as woodchuck or whistle pig, freaks at his shadow, stirring 6 more weeks of winter. Or stares at a cloud cover, offering an early spring. So the legend goes, and it's been legend through and through. Each groundhog sniffs the air, scratches its head. Stop and think. 6 weeks last 42 days, and 42 days from the 2nd of February would be the 16th of March, leaping over leap years. The vernal equinox falls on the 20th of March. So only 6 more weeks of winter, even to a blindfolded groundhog, would in fact be an early spring. It's like Hobson's choice with a sleight of hand. Would you like a week's stay or the 7-day package? That costs a quarter, but for you, only 25 cents. This is rodent as carnival barker. What can you expect from a country that honors its laborers for 1 day each year, then spends the other 364 bowing and scraping to management? There you have it. On behalf of the Martha's Vineyard Playhouse, I want to thank the poets tonight, Valerie, Liz, Clark, and all of you out there for joining us. Tell all your poetry lovers that you know to tune in to mvplayhouse.org for virtual entertainment and inspiration. And while you're doing that, please stay warm and stay safe. Goodbye and good luck.